Welcome to this explainer. Let's just dive right into it. Today, we're taking a journey straight into the microscopic world to completely demystify the invisible building blocks of everything around us, the atom. Our main goal in this lecture is to really understand the language of chemistry. By the time we wrap up, you'll know exactly how to read, write, and interpret the precise shorthand that scientists use to describe the fundamental particles of matter. We've got a fantastic roadmap for today. We're going to cover the anatomy of an atom, reading chemical symbols, ions and electric charge, isotopes, and finally, calculating average atomic mass. All right, let's start with Section 1, the anatomy of an atom. If we could magically shrink down and zoom all the way in, what does this invisible building block actually look like? Well, first off, we really have to wrap our heads around the sheer scale we're dealing with here. It is so easy to picture atoms as these solid little microscopic marbles, right? But honestly, they are overwhelmingly just empty space. An atom has this incredibly tiny, super dense center called the nucleus, and that's surrounded by a massive, sprawling volume of space containing electrons. To really put that into perspective for you, the diameter of the nucleus is roughly 100,000 times smaller than the atom itself. Literally, if you were sitting in a massive football stadium and you placed a single blueberry right on the 50-yard line, that blueberry is the nucleus. The rest of the entire stadium, that's the rest of the atom. It's absolutely wild. So, who are the players inside that stadium? We've basically got three main subatomic particles. Right there in the nucleus, you have the protons and the neutrons. Protons pack a positive 1 charge, and neutrons, well, just like it sounds, they're completely neutral, 0 charge. Both of these guys are the heavyweights of the atom, coming in at roughly 1 atomic mass unit, or AMU. Then, zooming around out in the stadium seats, so to speak, are the electrons. They carry a negative 1 charge, but their mass, it's practically non-existent. At 0.00055 AMU, they are basically massless. You would literally need about 1,800 electrons just to equal the mass of one single proton. Moving right along to Section 2, reading chemical symbols. Now that we've got the physical parts down, how do we actually write this stuff down in the universal language of chemistry? It all kicks off with the atomic number, which we represent with the letter Z. This is simply the number of protons in the nucleus. And here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. This number is the ultimate ID tag for an element. If you have an atom with exactly 6 protons in its center, it is always, without fail, going to be carbon. No exceptions. But if you pop one more proton in there to make it 7, boom, it is no longer carbon. It's nitrogen. The atomic number absolutely defines the element's entire identity. Next up, we have the mass number, which gets the letter A. This one is super straightforward. It's just the total number of protons plus the number of neutrons. Think back to what we just talked about with electron mass, or the lack of it really. Because electrons weigh so unbelievably little, the mass number relies strictly on the heavy stuff, those protons and neutrons locked tightly together in the center. So, how do we put this all together into a standard chemical symbol? When you're looking at an element symbol on a page, you're going to see numbers stacked up on the left side. The mass number, the A, sits up on the top left like a superscript. And the atomic number, the Z, sits right below it on the bottom left as a subscript. Now, sometimes scientists actually leave that bottom number off because the letter symbol already tells you the element. But that top number, that is vital because it tells us exactly how heavy that specific individual atom is. Which brings us to Section 3, ions and electric charge. So far, we've basically been talking about perfectly neutral atoms, where the positive protons perfectly cancel out the negative electrons. But what happens when that delicate balance breaks? Well, when an atom gains or loses electrons, it turns into an electrically charged particle that we call an ion. And we divide these into 2 distinct camps. Cations are positively charged atoms that have lost electrons. Anions, on the flip side, are negatively charged atoms that have gained electrons. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Wait, why does gaining something make it negative? It feels totally backwards, right? But you've got to remember, electrons inherently carry a negative charge. So if a neutral atom gains extra negativity, its overall charge naturally drops below 0 into the negatives. If it loses that negativity, it pops up into the positive territory. Let's actually put this into practice with a real-world scenario. Iodine. It's an absolutely essential trace element in our diets. Without it, your thyroid gland can swell up, causing a condition called a goiter. To prevent that, we add tiny amounts of iodine to everyday table salt. But here's the catch. It's not added as a neutral atom. It's actually added as an anion with a mass number of 127 and a -1 charge. So, let's solve this puzzle. How many protons, neutrons, and electrons are actually inside this specific dietary iodine anion? Let's work through the math together step by step. Step 1. We just grab a periodic table, look up iodine, and find its atomic number, Z. It's 53. Boom. That instantly tells us there are 53 protons. Step 2. Let's find the neutrons. We take the mass number they gave us, which is 127, and we subtract those 53 protons. That leaves us with exactly 74 neutrons. Okay, step 3. What about those tricky electrons? Well, a completely neutral iodine atom would just match the protons, right? So 53 electrons. But wait, this is a 1- anion. That means it grabbed one extra negative electron. 53 plus 1 gives us 54 electrons. And there you have it. You've completely decoded the subatomic makeup of an ion. All right, section 4, isotopes, the atomic variations. We just saw what happens when the electron count changes, but nature has another trick up its sleeve. What on earth happens when atoms of the exact same element have different weights? That exact scenario is what we call an isotope. Isotopes are just atoms that share the same atomic number, meaning they're the exact same element, hands down, but they have different mass numbers because they have different numbers of neutrons. Magnesium is a really great example of this. Every single atom of magnesium across the universe has exactly 12 protons, non-negotiable. But out in nature, magnesium naturally comes in 3 distinct variations. Some atoms happen to have 12 neutrons, some have 13, and some pack in 14. We call these magnesium-24, magnesium-25, and magnesium-26, just based on that total mass number. Chemically, they act perfectly identical. They just weigh slightly different amounts. And that perfectly tees up our final topic today, section 5, calculating average atomic mass. If you ever glance at a periodic table, you're going to notice something funny. The atomic masses listed there are almost never clean whole numbers. And that's simply because the mass printed on the periodic table is actually a weighted average of all the naturally occurring isotopes for that element. Check out this incredible real-world example. So researchers found a meteorite in central Indiana, and hidden inside it were traces of neon gas. The wild part? The meteorite picked up this gas straight from the solar wind while it was traveling through the solar system. When scientists cracked open this solar wind neon to analyze it, they found a specific mix or fractional abundance of isotopes. They found that 91.84% of it was neon-20, a tiny little sliver of 0.47% was neon-21, and the remaining 7.69% was neon-22. So the big question is, how do we take that jumble of percentages and boil it down to a single average mass for the sample? The formula is beautifully simple. Step 1, you take the fractional abundance of each isotope, so just convert those percentages into decimals, and multiply each one by its specific isotopic mass. Step 2, you simply take all those results from step 1 and add them up. That's it. It is literally the exact same mathematical process a teacher uses to calculate your final grade if exams, quizzes, and homework are all weighted differently. When you actually crunch those numbers for our solar wind neon, you get a final average atomic mass of 20.15 AMU. Now, here is the absolutely mind-blowing part. The average mass of neon found naturally right here on Earth is slightly higher. It comes in at 20.1796 AMU. This is huge because it brilliantly proves that natural isotope ratios actually depend on exactly where the element came from. We can literally tell the difference between space neon and Earth neon just by doing this basic math. How incredibly cool is that? But as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question to chew on. How exactly do scientists sort perfectly invisible atoms by their weight to even find these percentages in the first place? Well, they use this remarkable machine called a mass spectrometer. Think about it kind of like rolling steel ball bearings past a super powerful magnet. If you roll a really heavy steel ball, the magnet might only deflect its path a tiny bit, but if you flick a tiny little steel BB past that exact same magnet, it's going to get pulled way, way off course. By giving atoms an electrical charge and firing them through a magnetic field, scientists can see exactly how far they bend, literally sorting the invisible world physically by mass. It is nothing short of brilliant, and it's how we unlock the microscopic mysteries of the atom. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the